Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we're looking at a trim panel kit for a Triumph TR4A. So trim panel kit includes all of the main items that you need to retrim the sort of side panel areas of your TR4A. So it includes a pair of door panels, a pair of B-post gusset panels, B-post strips, the B-post quarter panels or wheel arch panels as some people refer to them, the actual wheel arch covers themselves, the sewn parts, and then the rear bulkhead panel at the back of the car. Also included in this video, but not part of the trim panel kit, they are sold separately, are the fixings related to the trim panels and also the door top pulls or door top finishers, depending on what you refer to them as. They are sold separately, but obviously they are relevant, so you may wish to consider getting them at the same time. So trim panel kit is sold as a kit, but we can also provide all of the items within the kit individually if you want. But when we say individually, we sell them in car sets. So for example, the door panels are sold as a pair, wheel arch covers sold as a pair, rear bulkhead sold as a single unit, i.e. enough to do one car. So we do sell them individually in car sets, but we do recommend that you buy them as a trim panel kit for a couple of reasons. One, it's cheaper to buy as a panel kit than buying all the items individually. But two, you're guaranteeing the sort of batch colour and spec of material is going to match throughout your trim panels because everything will be made from the exact same batch. That's especially crucial for leather kits, just FYI. Also related to that is you want to make sure that everything looks the same in terms of quality and workmanship. Obviously, we're known globally for our quality and workmanship to a very high level. So you want to make sure that everything matches up nicely in that regard. But even down to the case, say you've got original parts in your car that look okay, but the door panels are looking a bit worse for wear. So you replace the door panels. Unfortunately, when you put brand new door panels in the car next to what looked like good, say, quarter panels and wheel arch covers, they'll look worse because they've got brand new parts next to them. So always keep that in mind as well. So we do encourage people to buy as a full trim panel kit, but we can supply it individually if you want. What I'm going to do in this video is go over the parts mostly individually, giving a decent amount of detail, but it is worth noting that I have done several other videos on my YouTube channel showcasing different parts on a much more in-depth scale. So be sure to check those out. Some will be linked at the end of this video, so be sure to watch those at the end. If not, just see our YouTube channel for more details on that. This specific kit is actually an upgrade kit, so it's been done in full leather. From the factory, the majority of the cars left with vinyl ambler trim, but we can offer leather trim as well. So basically you have a two-tier option. You either go for vinyl, also known as ambler, or you go for a full leather version. This particular kit, like I say, has been done to full leather spec. The customer is going for a full leather interior, so his seats are fully leather as well. They're not leather faced, leather as other people refer to them. They are full leather, so even the backs of them, the retainers, are going to be leather as well. It's a nice upgrade option, so he's got a trim panel kit to match. But of course we can do the kits in vinyl, which was what the OEM spec was. I do plan on doing videos showcasing vinyl kits as well, so be sure to check those out as well. But for the most part, it's pretty much exactly the same, just the material changes. So let's work our way to the front. And just before I dive in, obviously I said it's a full leather kit. It's been done in black, in grained leather. So it has a grain finish to it. If I just show you effectively the three options that you have, two main options, then a sub option, shall we say. So that's vinyl ambler. That's what the original kits were made in. It's a PVC material effectively. And then you have your leather options there, side by side. Is that going to focus? There we go. So you've got grain there and then smooth there. So most colours in leathers are available in both grained and smooth. So it's up to you which one you go for. This customer's gone for the grained finish there, whereas smooth on top, you can see doesn't have much of a grain finish to it. It's amazing what a camera picks up that the eye can't see. There we go. Yeah, so there are your options in terms of the materials there. He's gone for black with white, which was obviously an extremely classic option supplied originally by the factory. Generally speaking, all TR4As left with white piping on the door panels, the wheel arch covers and the quarter panels there. Of course, we can do them to whatever spec you want. A lot of customers like to negate the white and go with black on black, or matching piping rather. Some people like to go for completely out there colour schemes. We can cater for all of those needs, so do let us know. So let's start with the door panels, just to state the absolute obvious of what we're talking about. These are the door panels here, albeit this is a TR4, but they are pretty much identical. So you get left and right. They're piped all the way around. They have a pocket and they have HFRF welding on there, etc., which is as per original spec. So now let's look at our panels here. So let's start with the back. The backing material is hardboard. It's a very specific hardboard. We get it especially imported from a company that's been making this hardboard specifically for marine and automotive for almost 100 years. And it's 2.55mm thickness, and that's very crucial. You can get 3mm thickness at most DIY stores. This is 2.55mm, and that really does come up trumps with these particular cars and panels because it helps with the fitment element here. You don't want it being too thick on there. So anyone could go down to a DIY store, and a lot of people do, including our competitors out there. They'll use the 3mm, thinking there's not much difference, but that's what's the maths on there, 0.45 millimeter really makes a difference. Like I say, we have got our reputation globally because, one, we make the best kits in terms of quality workmanship and fitment and whatnot, but we use the most suitable materials and high quality materials. So worth considering these sorts of things when you are trying to pick your supplier. There are several factors you should be aware of, but that's one of the small little factors there, is just down to the detail of the actual backing board. Before anything's even been cut, we use a very specific stuff. So like I say, it is marine and automotive spec, so it is water resistant. It's not waterproof, but it's miles better than what it used to be back in the sort of 50s, 60s, 70s type era, and even what you would get in the 90s. The technology has moved on quite significantly in terms of what they temper the materials with. And so, like I say, it's not waterproof, but it is water resistant, so you're not going to get those problems with warping or anything like that. And it is worth noting, we do obviously encourage people to go the extra mile and line the inside panels with some sort of plastic covering before you fit them, but overall the material is miles better than it was even sort of 30 years ago, so just bear that in mind. They're all cut on our in-house CNC machine, and they all have the relevant holes on them. So obviously around the perimeter you have the fixing holes, and then you have holes up here for the chrome door pulls. What we've done with some of our panels is we standardize them between the different TRs. So some cars you won't necessarily need some of these pilot holes, other cars you may need them, and sometimes it's a choice. Like for example, my father has a TR5. Originally the TR5s did not have this chrome handle on them, but my father's fitted one because he likes it, and therefore we have allowed for that with the pilot holes there. You then obviously get the pilot holes for the release mechanism of the door, and then the actual window winder itself there. So window winder at the bottom there, release mechanism at the top. You'll notice there are two holes. The smaller hole is the TR4A, the larger hole is the TR5, TR6 and TR250. So bear that in mind. But they are pilot holes because logic, you should always be careful with these things when lining them up to make sure they fit your specific car before you go drilling any bigger holes on them. But because obviously they get these large sort of grommet finishes going around them, you basically start off small, get the hole big enough that the rod can actually go through, and then the grommet finisher will cover up the rest of it. So just bear that in mind. Anything like that that you or your professional trimmer is struggling with, do get in contact with us. One, we've got hundreds of photos on our system detailing these things, but two, we have decades worth of experience. My father, like I say, has owned several TRs, so he literally knows how you fit these things. But also we've supplied kits to the leading restorers in the Triumph industry for decades. For example, Mark Macy over at Macy's Garage in Ohio arguably does the best TR restorations in the world, and he's used our kits for decades. So there's not much we don't know about these things. We know they fit, but we know they're also not particularly straightforward. So do get in touch if you are struggling. So they're the pilot holes. You also get pilot holes there and at the back here for these pocket finisher element of things here, which I'll touch on a bit more in a second. And then obviously around the perimeter you get the fixings. Let's talk about the fixings briefly. So the fixings, they are sold separately to the trim panel kit. You get these screws and washers, which are mainly used for other panels in the car, most notably the rear bulkhead panel at the back. But then for the door panels, you get a load of these strange shaped clips, which I'll come back to. And then you get screw, washer and finisher, which are obviously for the pockets there. At the moment, these are only available in black, but we are looking to get these made in the original Triumph colours. So watch this space for that element of things. Obviously, you get enough for a pair of doors. I'm just demonstrating with singulars of each one. Going back to this fixing, this is obviously the main fixing that's used for securing the panels in place. Originally, they were black and slightly smaller. These are green and slightly bigger. We have done that deliberately by design. The reason being that we know from experience that the panels had a way of working their way off, shall we say, especially when you're driving along, vibration of the car, they start loosening up and can pop off, especially in the thicker areas here where the pocket groups over at the back there. So for years now, we've supplied this slightly larger one here because we know that they work better in the long run. They make them harder to fit because you literally have to put them in place, and for certain areas you'll almost have to punch the front of the panel like that over the door to make them snap into place. But once they're in place, they're not coming off anywhere near as easily as the smaller black ones. So again, it's those little things that we have known for years that we deliberately have made subtle changes to make the overall restoration process a bit more logical, straightforward and suitable. So bear that in mind as well. So you get a load of those fixings there. It's also worth noting as well that obviously they get 360 spin on them from fixing to fixing hole, and that will make a difference in the alignment of the car. A lot of people assume that they'll go completely symmetrically all the way around. Doesn't always work like that. And if you have one like that, then the next one like that, the extra gap you're gaining between the fixing is quite significant. So worth bearing that in mind when you're trying to align it to the car. Sometimes it's not as logical as you would hope, but that's the science behind it, shall we say. Moving on to the actual face of the door panel itself. So the door panels had HFRF Weld pattern on them. So it's a radio frequency or high frequency. It kind of embosses the pattern onto the material and actually bonds it to the board there. The early cars, so TR4s, 4As, 5s, 250s, and then the very early TR6s use this lots of lines pattern here, and then the later TR6s switch to that much more simplified 2-line pattern here. So that's the weld pattern there. You also get this element here going around the pockets. Then the pocket is also welded and elasticated as well, which is great for smartphones. Presumably back in the day it was used for maps, orientation maps and whatnot, but these days great for a smartphone. They are elasticated, gets trimmed through onto the front here and pulled around onto the back there, so it's really useful for storing your iPhone or whatever in. So done as per original spec. Now it's worth noting, you can see the stitch line here. Only for leather kits do we have to stitch the bottom of this pocket on. It's because you can't bond leather to leather using the HFRF welding machine. You can bond vinyl to vinyl, so for vinyl kits you won't get that stitch line, but for leather kits we have to stitch it. So just bear that in mind with the differences between the vinyl and leather kit there. Now it's worth noting as well with this HFRF weld pattern that I believe we're the only company in the world that offers it on leather kits, but there are a couple other companies that offer it in vinyl kits. However, there are also quite a lot of companies that don't offer the HFRF weld pattern. They offer a stitched version. And from what I've read on their websites, they claim that they do that because stitching lasts longer than HFRF welds. That is, I'd say, extremely misleading at best. They don't offer HFRF welded kits because they haven't invested tens of thousands of pounds into the machine that they need to do it, nor the brass tools. So bear that in mind. You have some companies out there that unfortunately try to pull the wool over people's eyes and spin it, but simply put, they haven't bothered investing in the technology, whereas we have. So bear that in mind. And one, I mean, it brings an absolute beautiful finish in my opinion there. I mean, if you want us to stitch yours, we can do, but overall I'd say use the HFRF weld. It looks lovely. So yeah, they're the door panels. They're piped all the way around. These ones have been done obviously in white as per original spec. Now it's worth noting that originally Triumph for their panels, they piped it in plastic. We can pipe it in plastic if it's white or black, but generally speaking we recommend using leather cloth, especially if you're also getting seat covers from us. And that's the reason for that being that seat covers really need to have leather cloth piping to keep the rigidity and shape of the seat correctly. And you want to make sure that your seats and your panels match. So standardly, we will revert to leather cloth for the majority of our kits, especially if you're getting seat covers from us. Now, it's worth noting as well that we use leather cloth, not vinyl, for piping, where colours allow. About 80 to 90% of our colours are available in leather cloth. Some, unfortunately, we do have to revert to vinyl, but that's pretty rare because it would be for a real custom colour scheme. But lots of other companies out there will either only offer plastic piping, or they will offer vinyl piping. Vinyl, when it comes to piping, isn't that suitable. It's thicker, which means when it's wrapped round such a tight piping core like that, it makes it quite bulbous, which one, doesn't look very nice, but actually does cause a few issues in the fitment process because it will force the clips to try and pop off a bit easier. Whereas a leather cloth is thinner, but it's also very robust. It's a material that the sort of face material of it is slightly different to vinyl, and it doesn't grip nearly as much. So if you kind of scratch leather cloth, nothing really happens. Whereas if you're scratching vinyl to the same effect on piping where it's wrapped around so tightly, you'll start scuffing the piping. So again, it's these little things that we offer that a lot of people ignore or are unaware of, and certainly other companies out there, they don't bother offering leather cloth because they simply don't want to stock another material. Whereas we like to, again, offer the correct materials, but also the most suitable materials in that regard. So I have done a blog post, I do plan on doing a blog post and a video detailing the differences between vinyl and leather cloth when it comes to things like piping and edging of carpets, because it's two areas that we are very stubborn on, shall we say, in terms of insisting that that's the way it should be done, which unfortunately is something that's overlooked in the rest of the restoration industry. So yeah, like I say, leather cloth piping all the way around the perimeter of the panels in white in this particular example, but we can do other colours. So they're the actual door panels. Let's talk about the door tops now. Door tops, they are sold completely separately from the trim panel kits, and they were always a black molded plastic. They were the same all the way from the sort of TR, did they start on the TR4As or the TR250s? They certainly weren't on the TR4s as per the exposed bodywork, but you could fit them, you could retrofit fit them to them if you wanted. I think they started TR4A or TR5s, and they were basically, like you can very clearly see there, would cover up that metalwork there as per this here, and they were used all the way up until the end of the TR6 era. However, the very last TR6s did change. They moved to a much flatter version because they had a door pull in the center there. So it worked for the majority of the late TRs, but not all of them. They're always black as per this, and they are molded plastics. They've got a sort of rubber foam inside of them. They have the groove there for the finger slot to actually pull it, and then you had these excess materials on the top of the bottom, which were used effectively to, if I can just try and do this one-handed, tuck underneath the door panel there, and then the excess would get tucked in around effectively where the window goes in there. So we can supply them in the original black molded plastic like that. Alternatively, we can do retrim kits, so we can do vinyl or leather in whatever color you want, material pre-cut to size to enable you to retrim your original ones. So say if you're changing the material or the color and you want it all to match, then we can do that. Alternatively, we can supply them fully trimmed up, so either you send us your old ones, if they're in good enough condition we'll retrim them for you, or we can supply aftermarket ones fully retrimmed in a vinyl or a leather, and they do look the absolute part, especially in leather, especially if you're changing the color as well. Obviously black on black works, but even that, you can see black leather to black plastic, you get a bit of a sheen difference, so some people really like it to match up, so it is worth considering. It looks absolutely lovely, so do check out our details and contact us about that if you want. So they're the options there for the door tops. Moving further back in the car, let's talk about the B-post finisher panels, or B-post gusset panels. Now the TR4A were identical. They were these small triangular millboard pieces trimmed all the way around apart from on the one edge, which gets sort of tucked over. And they are for this area, but that's a TR6. Oh, there we are, TR4. This is a 4A actually. So yeah, like I say, TR4A identical in terms of this part here, as are the door panels, just FYI. And it goes here. Now, it's worth noting there was a difference on the TR5 250s and TR6s. they wrap the material round. Do see my other video for that. In theory, you can change them. So you could put the later versions on the earlier cars and wrap the material around. Some people like that because it has basically material on the outside there as opposed to exposed bodywork there. But originally from the factory, the TR4A left like this, millwall panel with the leather trimmed, material trimmed onto them. B-post strips, you get a pair of them. They're leather, in this case they're skived down, which is the process of thinning down the leather, which we do as standard on any applicable parts that we see fit. I believe we're the only company in the world that has our own in-house only restoration company in the world that has our own in-house leather skiving machine. And they basically go down the B-posts here, directly onto the bodywork. They mostly get covered up by the Furflex anyway, but they're slightly oversized to allow for an easy fitment on there. You get a pair of those as well. Then the B-post quarter panels, or wheel arch panels as some people refer to them. So these are obviously these panels here that go up over the top of the actual wheel arch there, up the B-post and round, and they bend around and sort of connect in with the rear bulkhead. Now it's worth noting, whereas most of these parts are applicable to both TR4 and TR4As, the quarter panels are not, and nor is the rear bulkhead panel. And I have done a video purely dedicated to the differences between them, and it's all related to the shape here is slightly smaller on the TR4s and the shape here is slightly smaller on the TR4s. It's all related to a change in the bodywork of the wheel arch. It got a lot flatter compared to a curve on the earlier cars, so bear that in mind. But these are obviously the TR4As. So they're hardboard panels, cut again on our in-house CNC machine. They have all the relevant sort of fixing holes on there, including pilot holes for the hood frame element of things. But again, they are made semi-universal, so always make sure you're matching it up to your car before you go cutting material from the face side, because they are made to fit a few different Triumphs there. But they have the, I'd say, the fixings for actually mounting them, but also for the hood frame. Unfortunately, the photos here are all of Surrey tops, but effectively the hood frame, sort of metalwork brackets all fitted at the top here, which is what some of these holes are here for. Then you had the cutaways, which we float over for the seatbelt element of things. Again, it's made universal, so there's a couple of different versions in the same video on this one. Then they're trimmed all the way around apart from on the bottom edge. We leave that as a flap so it tucks nicely underneath the adjacent carpet, creating a nice seamless finish between the quarter panel and the carpet set. And then also on this back edge here, we leave that like that again, because that, if we look at this one here, that would tuck underneath the quarter panel there. And again, it just means it creates a nice seamless finish between the panels. If you actually look here, they've finished the panel off how you would normally finish a panel off, i.e. they've sort of trimmed it round. Whereas if they'd done it like we supplied them, it would create a lovely seamless finish between the rear bulkhead panel and the quarter panel. So again, it's all these little things that we've learned over the years with working with such esteemed restorers, that means that we cater our kits to get the best overall finish. They're then piped. They're piped down this leading edge and round the corner. The later cars only went up to the corner, so they'd sort of go up to here, but the TR4As, 5s and 250s, I think, went all the way around the corner, and then the TR6s ended at the corner there. We actually finish our piping and height, it sort of trims down. A lot of other people out there, they literally just cut the piping off and it creates a bit of a, I'd say, awkward and messy looking finish. But again, it's these little attention to detail, and just look how lovely that piping goes around the corner. And that's leather cloth at its finest, basically, because it really does go round corners lovely. And we, like I say, get piping specially made. It's all fully glued piping. If you bend that at an angle, you're not getting any creases in it whatsoever. But do check out my other video and blog post detailing that, because it really does show the quality of the material that we use compared to others out there. There are HFRF welded again. Again, the weld pattern, this is akin to what was used on the earlier cars, whereas the later cars switched to a sort of two-line pattern on the late TR6s. But this was correct for the TR4, 4A, 255, and the very early TR6s. And then just talking about the actual material again, hardboard, lovely and flexible. It's flexible, but it retains its core strength in it, which is crucial, especially on these panels here, because you get to bend it like that, which you need as it bends around the corner to meet the bulkhead panel. So again, the use of the specific hardboard that we use and the thickness that we use allows for that. Allows for a nice bit of bending in it while retaining its core strength there. Sort of thing you're not going to ever get with ply, which a lot of other people try and use out there, so bear that in mind. So they're the quarter panels. You then have the wheel arch covers, sold as a pair, and they also include pre-cut foams for going onto the bodywork of the car. They're piped, sewn, oversized as well, so that basically when you come to fit them, you'll have little cuts in these, and then that will go onto the horizontal of the rear shelf there, again allowing for a nice seamless finish between the wheel arch cover and the sort of rear shelf area of the car there. Obviously piped in white to match the rest of it there, and with the foams there, so they're sold as a pair. Then you get finally the rear bulkhead panel. Rear bulkhead panel sits at the back of the car. Let me just grab the book here. And again, TR4 and TR4A did differ, all related to the size up here and here. Do see my other video detailing that. But it's hardboard, it's HFRF welded. You get lots of lines going vertically on it like that. Comes out absolutely beautifully, as you can see. Like I say, I'm fairly sure we're the only company in the world that offer leather versions of these with the HFRF weld, and it looks really, really nice on there. Trimmed all the way around. Again, in a hardboard, which again allows for lovely bending on it without risking breaking it, because it has a great core strength to it. Very specific material. And then you have the sort of pilot holes drilled into them, going all the way around, which are for those screws and washers that I mentioned earlier. Some of them you have to kind of look for underneath, but they are there. Again, we always obviously recommend that you line them up correctly to your car, just in case. But yeah, like I say, we sell these by the absolute bucket ton, so I think we know what we're doing with them by now, 50 years in, hopefully. So yeah, that's the rear bulkhead panel. So yeah, I think that's covered it. So just a quick recap. Trim panel kit for a TR4A, also known as the TR4 IRS. Includes door panels, rear quarter panels and rear bulkhead panel, B-post finishers, B-post strips and sewn wheel arch covers. The fixings are sold separately, the door tops are sold separately. Door tops we can offer as a molded unit, or we can offer a retrim kit to recover your original ones, or we can fully recover your original ones for you, or supply you with brand new molded ones fully trimmed up for you in either a different colour or a different material, but they are sold separately to the trim panel kit. Trim panel kit's available in vinyl, also known as Ambler, which was what was original for the cars when they left the factory. This particular kit has been done in leather, which is an upgrade kit. When you're thinking about leather, you've got two main options: grained or smooth finish leather. Cheaper to buy as a trim panel kit, but we can supply the parts individually if you would like. When we say individually, we mean in car sets. Subtle difference between the TR4A and the TR4 models. The earlier TR4s had different quarter panels and different rear bulkhead panel. Apart from that, they were identical in terms of what we supply and the fitment process, but do check out our other video which details that element of things. TR5 and TR250 models, again, very, very similar. The only difference really being the B-post gusset finish panels there. So again, a decent guide for that, but do refer to the individual video that I've done for the TR5 and 250 models. So I think that's all covered. Remember to check out the videos at the end of this one, and of course any other videos on our YouTube channel related to your TR4A restoration. Of course, if you've got any specific questions, don't hesitate to ask me either in the comments area, or better still, just get in contact with me via our website. Please remember to like and subscribe, share with other classic car enthusiasts, and of course make sure you tune into my next video. Thanks for your attention, and I will see you next time.